I figured out the way to make anything go viral.
This is Jenny Hoyos, a 19-year-old creator averaging over 10 million views every time she posts.
Yeah, this one video got over 175 million views.
Her secret? Storytelling. In the next 20 minutes, she's gonna break down how to make viral shorts from scratch that will blow up your YouTube channel. She teaches you how to write engaging hooks.
If you say this, your video will go viral.
Her secret storytelling framework.
Stop saying and then in your videos. Start saying but so instead.
And YouTube Shorts advice that is just blatantly wrong.
Stop being relatable.
All right, we have Jenny Hoyos here. So first things first that I need to ask you is just, can you give a little bit of an introduction about yourself? I mean, obviously you are the queen of shorts. If you know anything about YouTube, you know everyone knows who you are, but definitely would be good for you to touch on who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Jenny Hoyos and I make short form videos and I have over 8 million subscribers on YouTube along with over 3 billion views across platforms. But I also help other creators go viral as I've helped thousands of creators with their short form content.
Nice, that's great. So I think what everyone wants to know is, how does someone get started with shorts on YouTube?
Yeah, I mean the best way is just to start posting and experimenting with different things and seeing what works. But when experimenting, don't just be doing random stuff and throwing just
Mm,
a bunch of different niches. Don't just do cooking and then fitness and then all these different things. Think about your audience. Number one, think about your audience and your avatar. Who is the person that you want to target? And then what kind of content do they want to watch? What kind of content? What kind of voice tone? What kind of humor? And then create a bunch of different videos targeting that audience, that avatar rather. That's how I would that's the best way to get started.
okay, awesome. And I mean, I think one question that I would have on that is, like, who actually should be making this kind of short form content? Because obviously I talk a lot more about long form, and I tell people maybe keep it to like two short form videos per long form, but it really depends on who you are. Like, who would you recommend to actually make shorts?
I recommend shorts the most to creators who don't know how to make videos at all. Like if you're
Mm,
just starting out and you don't even know what editing software exists or how to make videos, shorts is the most approachable way to do it because long form can be pretty intimidating to make such a long video. So do shorts if that is you. But also I suggest it for a lot of local businesses as well. So I've done a lot of short form content for local businesses, and the reason why I suggest that is because if you have for one, it gives you a lot of organic reach, but also with that short form content, you could also run ads naturally, like on Instagram Reels. So I'm noticing like Instagram Reels especially has been really effective for businesses.
nice. That's cool. Yeah, I know a couple of people who do that. I think that that is a very interesting strategy for local businesses. So it sounds like anyone who doesn't really have long form mastered, like starting with shorts is a little bit, would you say it's a little bit easier, like a little bit less friction to get started, or?
It's easier, less friction. Yeah, it is the best. I suggest short form content for everyone. Like you were saying, if someone creates long form or especially if someone's like a live streamer, short form clips definitely help get your reach out there. But I
Hmm.
would especially tell someone to be focus on being a short form creator if they don't really have the skill of content creation. But that's also why it works for small local businesses because they're focusing on growing their business, not becoming a content creator. So it definitely that frictionless helps a lot.
100%. And would you say that the main goal of short form is to go viral, or does it kind of depend on the person?
I would say maybe not necessarily it will always go viral, but it will get as many views as possible with that audience.
Hmm.
So short form content is naturally going to get more views because there's more short form videos being consumed. Like if someone has 10 minutes on the shorts feed, they can watch at least 10 shorts. But if they have to pick a long form, they can only pick one. So naturally, short form content tends to have more views and more reach, more eyes, which is why it is the best for maximizing reach.
100%. And how do you think about short form like with long form, like as a combination? Like how would you recommend most creators to think about the split between those two?
Yeah, I think about long form as like, a complete piece of content. And for the most part, it has storytelling. And even though there can be storytelling on shorts, shorts tends to just be a clip or a moment. A lot of people try to make a long form in a short. That does not work. Don't do a long form concept on a short. A short is meant to be just a small bite-sized piece of information. So maybe you do a long form on a video like a complete guide to master like to helping your diabetes, let's just say. That would be like the long form versus a piece of short form. A very popular format is actually someone having a glucose monitor and seeing how pasta affects their glucose.
Hmm.
Like pasta is a very niche and very small part of like and a glucose monitor that is like just a very small part of diabetes, but it's still a viral piece of content that is like a very small piece of that long form video.
Gotcha, interesting. And so when it comes to making a viral short, right? When it comes to going viral on short form, what would you say is the most important factor there?
The hook.
The
The
hook?
hook is like your thumbnail on a long form. Yeah, it's the first impression that the viewers get. You know, they're scrolling through and seeing a bunch of different content, and yours needs to stick out.
Interesting. Okay, and so what would you say about hooks? Like how does someone write a good hook?
Yeah, so it actually comes from I believe the best hooks are visual. So
Okay.
your hooks need to start with shock and needs to be both visually and audibly. So the way I think about it is my favorite hooks tend to be cold opens, just pulling like the most craziest part or funniest moment of the video, and then the rest of the video is building up and showing how you got to that moment.
Interesting. So you're basically teasing the end at the beginning and then showing the entire process of getting to that end. Are you like trying to
Yes.
create curiosity in that hook, or is there anything that you do there?
Yeah, so the goal with that is they are impressed or shocked by whatever you're seeing, and the curiosity is how you make that. So I do a lot of food videos. So very popular hook that I'm using is I'll show the final piece of food, and never all the cooks do this show like you don't want to make a video saying like we're gonna make a chicken Alfredo today. The viewer like what if they don't know if it even looks good, if it's gonna taste good? Why would they want to see you make it? So first show that it looks incredible and the viewer's like, oh my goodness, I need to know how to make that. That's the curiosity gap. I'm shocked you stopped my
Mm.
scroll and now the curiosity gap is how do you make that? And then you watch the video of the person making that. So that's definitely one approach, a cold open. But similarly, another thing and it depends. Some people don't feel comfortable doing this, but even using other people's successful hooks and then recreating their videos or breaking down their videos is it's such a cheap and easy way too.
Interesting. Okay, cool. And so once you have a good hook, is there kind of like a framework that you follow typically when you're creating short form videos?
Yeah, so it does depend on like everyone has different niches, so everyone's gonna have their own specific framework, and I recommend that everyone gets their own like template for their style. But for the most part, I do tend to break it into three parts, where I do a hook where we start with shock, we simply explain what we're gonna do, and give a reason to watch until the end. After we do that, the rest of the video is essentially just building up in cause and effect, but so storytelling. There's tons of videos on it, so I don't have to get into much detail. And then the payoff is another three things that I follow. It needs to be short and concise, for very obvious reasons. It needs to be surprising. So this one can be a bit tricky. So for the most part, it does come back to the hook. If in your hook you had a curiosity gap, a good curiosity gap, the answer should shock people. You don't want the answer to be something that they were expecting. So
Mm.
um, that, and then you don't want to over deliver. It seems counterintuitive,
Interesting.
but if you ask a question, the last word you say is the answer. So if the video starts with you saying, "What's two plus two?" The very last word you say is four. You don't want to say four. Now, for example, if you had two cows and then no. People are out because they already got the answer. So that's a pretty it's like yeah, it's a very simple framework.
Interesting. Okay, cool. I like that a lot. I think that people can definitely take that. I know you touched a little bit on but so storytelling, and I think that's one of the things that really kind of makes your approach unique because most people are doing the more and then storytelling. Do you mind going in a little bit more depth on what that is and how people can start to use it?
Yeah, so and then storytelling is essentially when things get repetitive and boring. So when someone's telling a story and if they're saying the course of events or this happened and then that happened and then that happened. So I'm gonna use the recipe example because I do a lot of recipe videos and it is such a simple example. So you can make a recipe video where you say, so we boil the water and then we add pasta and then we add salt and then we take the pasta out and then like that's so boring. So instead, but so storytelling is when you add conflict, which is super important because you want the viewers to be on their toes and not know what's going to happen. You want the video to be progressing at all times, but the progression cannot be linear. It needs to be exponential or the viewer can't progression that the viewer cannot really expect. So back to the recipe video, but so storytelling, the way I utilize it is by doing the recipe with my mom. And let's say we say this, and this is exactly what we did actually. So I'm just going to say exactly what we did. Okay, so first we boil the water and add salt, but that's way too much salt. Okay, so I'll add more water and then I'll put the pasta. And when we take out the pasta, oh no, the pasta is it's still raw. Oh, okay, then I'll just leave it in for longer. So notice how those mini points of conflict or different things that you don't expect coming just makes it a little more interesting and less like
Mm.
a linear story, which can get a bit boring.
Agreed, because then you're adding so much suspense. You're adding like all of these little things to just keep the viewer more engaged than just keeping it linear. I think that's such a powerful storytelling technique. And I think that's one of the things that I really took away, like in one of our previous conversations that I've used in my content. And um, one thing on storytelling that I would like to ask is with shorts, you're working with such a short time frame, right? It's usually 60 seconds to maybe three
Yeah.
minutes on a longer short. How do you think about storytelling within that short time frame? Because for me, I use like full 3 act structures, like, we have the time to tell a really long story. But I think your storytelling is great in 60 seconds. Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, it doesn't really have many plot points, and unlike many structures, there's like so many different bullet points you need to hit. Like, let's just say, like with the hero's journey, there's so much character development.
Hmm.
So, with the way I think about short form content, and this is a very advanced approach, is to think about it across several videos and try to have that character development across different videos and even cross-reference different things. So I think of again, I think of a short form video as like as a moment. So like we see movies and it's like one big story, but then there's like very small stories inside of that. So let's just say oh, let's just use Monsters Inc. as an example. I hope people watch Monsters Inc. So in the beginning scene where they made the commercial and Mike Wazowski's like face got covered by like the logo on the commercial. I don't even know if people know what I'm talking about. But like that is like literally the movie starts with them showing like the company making a commercial and the commercial running on TV. That is the story. Like that's a short. Like just that one piece of that story. And that's how I think about shorts, where you want your shorts to just be a moment where you go from point A to C, or sorry, to from point A to B to C. And then your channel is going from A through Z.
Interesting. Okay, nice. So basically taking kind of like a subsection of a bigger story, right? Or and then just kind of
Yes.
shortening that down. Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. And so when you're doing that, is there any kind of pacing techniques that you're including in there? Because I know um one thing that I talk about is like roller coaster scripts, right? Like having sections where the energy's higher, it's faster paced, and then leveling it off, having slower sections. Do you still do that on short form or no?
Yeah, but it's not as like it's more of like one roller coaster loop,
Hmm.
maybe.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is the first 10 seconds, I've never actually talked about the roller coaster effect, but yeah, I do unintentionally think about it. Yeah, the first 10 seconds are very fast and have a lot of progression. So if let's say there are 5 steps to something, or let's just say like a video is 5 tips to do whatever it is. So in the first 10 seconds, I'll try to get 2 tips in.
Hmm.
And then in the middle, let's just say it's 30 seconds long. Those are the other 2 tips. And then the last 5, 10 seconds is the final tip. So yeah, I do try to make the beginning really fast, the middle like slower, but not super slow, and the ending very concise.
Interesting. And you find that that adds more retention than just keeping the whole thing fast?
Yeah, so the way to think about it is you want your beginning to be very like concise and straight to the point so that the viewer is satisfied, like, oh, this person is getting straight to the point. I want to watch this video. And around the 10-second mark, the viewer is already invested in whatever you're making. Like with shorts, at least that's what I tend that's what I would tend to find. But then we slow it down towards the middle because if you just keep the momentum continuously fast, like some people do, the viewer gets confused and that confusion leads to them leading. You don't want to be so fast that they get confused. And what I mean by that is sometimes a viewer is still thinking about what you just said, and then you're already on to another topic, which is why sometimes you do want to hold on to a certain moment a bit and even rephrase the way you're saying something. That's why I love having characters because I can say something, the character reacts to what I said, and the other character makes another comment in reaction to it, and the person really interpreted what just happened there, and we can move on to the next thing. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Interesting. So, as far as characters go, are you like actively, because I know you make your, if you haven't seen Jenny's stuff, she makes her mom like a character, right? Like your mom is a character in your videos. Like, how do you think about characters and how can someone who's maybe making shorts about, let's say, cooking, for example, because you said you have a lot of experience with that. How can someone who's doing cooking videos add other characters into their videos to make it more engaging?
Yeah, so characters is one of like the best tactics that Hollywood has honestly used. Look at Friends for an example. The key, like the good thing about characters, the great thing, the reason why they're super powerful is because even if someone doesn't relate to you, they can find someone that they relate to. So it allows you to, like, the more characters you have, it allows the person to resonate with one of them. And that's why Mr. Beast has all his friends in the videos. So the way I think about it is not having a bunch of people who are the same personality or the same person. You want to have different characters. And because it's primarily just me and my mom, we try to have like that mother-daughter opposite like
Mm.
relationship. So something that I think about, and this is something that could be helpful as far as like thinking about character, whether you're working with a singular, just you, or multiple, is a lot of popular movies or shows are aspirational yet relatable. So what does that mean? So Spider-Man is a perfect example. So he is super aspirational. Like it's Spider-Man. He's like swinging and he's like he has all these superpowers. It's so cool. But then he's also super relatable because he's Peter Parker. So even though he's aspirational, you feel like you could be just like him. If he was just aspirational and just cool, it's like it wouldn't appeal to us as much. And if he was just relatable, then he's not really anything special. There's nothing that like, why would we even go to the movies to see that? So then that's how I think about characters, and that's how I think about my content and how I approach it. I make it aspirational by me doing really cool things or making really cool things or making a mess. Like that's super aspirational. But then my mom comes in and makes it relatable by getting mad at me and yelling at me, and the kids are like, "Oh yeah, I want to do all those cool things." And yeah, my mom would do the exact same thing if I ever tried to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're like kind of creating a sense of comfort almost, like with the audience because they're like, "Oh, this would happen to me," right? It's like creating
Yes.
familiarity. Yeah, you're bridging that across the screen. Interesting. That's very, very interesting. So, in terms of like characters, how would someone think about that for their content? I know it would depend on like the niche and everything, but like, would you just try to add a family member? Would you say that's like the easiest thing? Would you try to go out and find a friend? Like, how would you tangibly do that?
It could be anyone as long as you guys can bring opposite appeals. You guys need to be the one is a cookie and the other's the cream, right? That's how I think about it. Yeah, it could literally be anyone. I
Okay.
love to use my family because I make content for kids, but if you're doing content for teens, a friend could be a lot better. Or even an animal. People love animals, honestly. That's such an easy way. Or even finding strangers to be in your videos.
100%. Yeah. No, I think yeah, there was definitely that I don't know if you were watching YouTube like back like you probably were because you're the same as me, but like
Yeah.
you remember like all the channels that kind of had like talking cats or talking dogs and stuff like that and
Yeah,
like
or like the annoying orange.
yeah, exactly. Like that's such a cool way to use characters too. I agree. And I think yeah, incorporating that into
Yeah.
short form is a really cool idea.
Yeah, and I think I want to say like Ryan Duran is a great example. Like if you look at his shorts, he
Hmm.
characterizes everything. Isaiah Photo did that as well for a while, and that's super popular. Like he'll make videos like how long does it take for a candle to melt? And he'll give like the candle a name and like he'll already start giving it a personality. And there's something about character that people just love and relate to.
Yeah, 100%. That's really, really good. What are some of the other kind of retention hacks like that that you think about, or do you even think about retention hacks?
Yeah, so one of the biggest retention hacks that I utilize that I don't know why others don't is using a mechanism. So a mechanism is giving a clear sense of progression. So the reason why that's important is if the video isn't progressing, viewers are going to leave. And you can identify that by looking at your retention graph. If you see your retention graph is just like a slow slope, it's just slowly going down. Like there's no ex like if you look at your retention graph and you're like there's no places where people left. Like I never said anything where everyone left, but they were just slowly leaving throughout the whole video. It's because your progression was way too slow and the video was boring, which is why you want to have a clear sense of progression so the viewers know how close we are to getting to the end of the video. And there's several ways to do this. So for example, I'm working on a video where I make a 1 minute, I try a 1 minute cookie recipe. So an easy way, super simple way to give a sense of progression is literally having the 60-second timer on screen. Mr. Who's the Boss is a great example. On all his shorts, when he does listicles, he shows like a timer on screen and how long is left on that listicle. Another thing you can do also is I like to have visuals on the top of my videos where I show the ingredients that are needed to make that recipe. So if it's a burger, I'll have a bun, then the burger patty, then the cheese, then the lettuce, tomatoes. And that way the viewer can follow, and then I'll put a check mark next to it. So the viewer can follow along with how close we are to finishing the burger. Otherwise, they're going to feel like there's no end in sight,
Mhm.
or they might think that the video is over because you were thinking of making a 10 layer burger, but after the first layer, they thought the video was over, so they scrolled. Like that's just yeah, this is key.
That makes a lot of sense because then I also do that in my chapters too. Like I'll have like a progression where I'll like tease the rest of the chapters where it's like you haven't seen this yet, right? So it's like, and I think that's kind of the same thing there because if someone sees that a burger is half made, right? Even if like yeah, let's say that they see it's half made. If the other half of the burger isn't made yet and they know that it's not made yet, they know that they're missing out on half the story. They know that they're
Yes.
missing out on half the burger. And I think that makes it so much more likely for them to stay on the video.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's so much more effective to do it visually than audibly. Like I hear a lot of people another thing too is I hear a lot of people use like either conclusional language or like like things that are scrollable. So for example, like using the word, I don't know why someone would use finally like in the middle of their video because that like just sounds like the video's over.
Yeah.
Um but even like or there's other language when someone says like when someone uses language to make it seem like the video is it's going to be a long process, it makes people not want to watch the video. Like if someone says like, "Oh, and sit back because this is going to take a while." Why would you say something like that? Like someone doesn't want to watch a video that feels like it's going to take a long time. So your language is super important as well.
100%. I completely agree with that. Yeah, that's interesting. And I think, yeah, having stuff like that, is there any other retention hacks that you use besides that? Or is that is that like one of the main ones that you use?
That is the number one I
Number one.
use. I
Okay.
guess everything else is like very I mean like something else I use. I'm not sure how common this is. I hope this is common is I'm constantly adding progression by like manipulating, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So if someone is like me who does non-scripted content, like they're just like kind of doing the experience and they're talking through the experience. Something that a lot of entertainment creators or like non-scripted creators do is they'll sometimes say what they're going to do and then show what they're going to do. So, for example, like let's say if I say, I'm going to take off this play button off the wall. And then in silence, I'm taking the play button off. That is like so boring. Instead, you want to manipulate I manipulate the footage so much where I'll then take oh, I'm gonna take this play button off the wall. I'll take that audio and match it with me taking it off the wall just to like
Mm,
speed up progression. Or sometimes do ADR, which is even less common, which is essentially I do that all the time too. If you have an action that you're doing, but you don't really have like a good piece of audio associated with it, you can record it afterwards using the like the same microphone that you use to record the video, and then it sounds like you actually said it during like when you filmed.
right. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I do that. I used to do that a ton in my videos as well. And I think it goes back to that concept of like show, not tell, right? But it's not
Yes,
even showing but not telling. It's showing and telling at the same time, which is almost even more powerful, right? So that's really good.
most definitely.
Yeah.
And but one issue that I do see sometimes is yeah, although you do want to say what you're doing sometimes, it can be a bit overkill, and it's better to think of things that complement the visuals as well. So a video is much more interesting when you're showing, let's just say someone is cleaning their room. It's instead of saying, okay, so I took the pillowcase off the pillow and then I did whatever it was. Like instead of saying exactly what you're doing as the footage is happening, you want to think about like potentially the dual narrative, the story that you could tell alongside that footage. So let's go back to that. That person is cleaning their room. Instead, while you are doing whatever you're doing to the pillowcase, you can say, um, my mom is so mad at me today because I haven't cleaned my room in like a week. So we got to do this as fast as possible. That's so much more intriguing and interesting to watch both visually and audibly because the same thing isn't happening at the same time.
100%. Because then I think that especially applies in short form because then you're using that time for like maximum efficiency, right? Like
Yes,
yeah, and you're just basically getting rid of an extra second or two that someone would have to watch to get the exact same experience.
exactly. Because in short form content, every second counts.
Yeah,
It literally kills retention because 1 second in a short isn't 1% in retention loss. It's exponential just because it's it would be 1 second would be 1% if the video is 100 seconds, but your video is probably not 100 seconds. It's like 30.
yeah, 100%. Interesting. So one thing that I wanted to ask you about, you said that you're a non-scripted creator. Can you touch on kind of
Yes.
what that means and yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, so when I say non-scripted, that is because a lot of my content tends to be curiosity gaps that are even curiosity gaps for myself where I don't know the answer to it.
Hmm.
So yeah, like a key thing in my videos is just going through experiences and then seeing what happens. So a lot of times I don't actually know what the outcome's going to be, and I do that because I find that it makes it like if I don't know what's going to happen, then the viewer probably won't know what's going to happen at the end. So, and it makes it easier for the pre-production because I just have to think about the hook and maybe some things that I have to get through, but there's no yeah, there's no specific lines that I have to like say.
Interesting. So, are you going back after the fact and scripting out a voiceover, or do you do the entire thing as the process is going on?
Yeah, so while it's happening, you are thinking you are filming for the edit. So
Hmm.
I am doing a bunch of sound bites. I am saying a bunch of different things a bunch of the same times. I'm like leaving editor's notes like, "Oh, I like that. Oh, that didn't make sense. Maybe cut this out." Um, so yeah, that's I do think about it while I'm filming, and I try to say a bunch of different things just so there's a lot of options. And then in post, we put the story together. So we basically take the best sound bites and then the we don't really use the sticky note method anymore just because of after so many shorts. But like if someone's just starting out and they do non-scripted, I'm sure actually maybe people haven't heard about the sticky note method, which is
Yeah, let's expand
basically
on that.
yeah, you get a bunch of sticky notes. So basically you film the video and there's a bunch of different story beats and plot points. Even if it's just a short, there's like probably a bunch of different things that you could have potentially done. And this is such a good way to like do it as a beginner is you edit in like physically before you edit in the edit. So you in sticky notes, you make one sticky note for each thing that actually happened. And you put it on the table or on a wall. And then you basically take out what you think is boring or doesn't make sense, and then you rearrange. Um, And that's the sticky note method. You do it so that you can ensure that the video has as much progression and yet suspensefulness as possible.
Interesting. Yeah, I actually haven't heard of that myself. That's interesting. So
You've never heard of the sticky note method,
don't
really?
think
It's a
so.
it's a
No,
very
no.
common like a traditional thing.
Okay.
I
Nice.
take a
No, it
lot of like
sounds
inspiration and learnings from traditional media.
right. That makes sense. Yeah, because then you can just visualize it all out in front of you before it gets into the timeline. I like that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
makes it
So
faster.
yeah, 100%. Cool. So I did want to switch it up slightly. I think one thing that everyone is kind of wondering about right now is like, how are the top creators using AI for content creation? And I know a lot of them aren't, but I'm curious if you are.
Oh yeah, I'm using AI throughout the entire process. I use it as more of like a content assistant who I'm bouncing ideas off of.
Okay.
So, as far as the AI I use ChatGPT and I made a custom GPT by uploading a 50-page team SOP. So basically, an SOP is a standard operating procedure that you give to any team members that join. So this is producers, ideators, scripters, editors. Whoever joins the team, I send them like this document. So essentially, I gave that to ChatGPT as if it's one of my employees, and I basically uploaded my brain onto it and the way I like to have my video scripted. All my students have access to this GPT as well to help bounce off ideas. And usually, I use it just like yeah, as a partner. So I'll have a topic and then it'll help me come up with ideas. And if I have an idea or I'll when I have one idea, I have it come up with 10 different versions of that idea. Because even if you have one idea, there's 10 different ways to execute it. And then once I have different hooks, I send it to it. Which one's your favorite hook? Why? How could I make it better? What could I do visually? I also use it especially to help brainstorm different visuals as well. Um, and yeah, it's just helping me in that sense throughout the process. Even with story beats, I'll tell it like, "Oh, this is what happened in bullet points.
Mm.
What do you think? How can I make this better?" So it's more of an assistant as far as in the actually in every step. And then of course, Adobe Photoshop, what's called Gen Fill.
Hmm.
That's great for simplifying the background as well, or doing cool stuff.
That's cool. So you're actually using that generative fill in your videos.
All the time. Every video has generative fill,
Really?
actually.
Wow. Interesting.
Every
Okay.
single video. And no one will probably notice it.
And you just do that to tidy up the background to keep more focus on yourself or whatever the object of focus is.
Yeah, so for several things. So for example, oh my goodness, I actually posted this on LinkedIn. It's such a great example. So I had a hook that was like very busy and distracting, and it was a very hard gen fill job. So we basically gen filled everything that wasn't me and the object or focal point that we wanted. So like that's an example. But also we do clean up the background to make it look like we don't want anything in the background to be distracting because it might take out it might grab someone's attention. Kind of like if you look at a heat map. I'm sure I'm sure actually maybe I was gonna say I'm sure people have seen it, but maybe they haven't. But like there's like there's like I don't know how people use this feature, but like if you were to look at a heat map and you know how there's reds and yellows, you
Hmm.
don't want like the reds to be anywhere that isn't in the focal point, which is you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I use that on all of our thumbnails. That's interesting. You actually use it for the videos though. Do you mainly do that for the hook or do you like actually go through and like heat map the whole video?
Oh, we try to think about the whole video, but I will say we go crazy. We go crazy on the hook. I need to
Okay.
send you the I think it would be a great visual to show on screen the hook I'm telling you about because it's night and day difference, like the
Yeah.
hook before and after. And no one will ever tell that it was Gen filled.
Yeah, we that's great. Yeah, we can definitely just pop it up in the edit. So that'll be good.
Yeah.
Nice. Sounds good. So in terms of like once you post a short, like let's say that you post a short, let's say that it does well or it does bad. Are you looking at analytics at all? And how do you use analytics to improve your videos?
Yeah, I'm always looking at my analytics. Um, Lots of like, or honestly, I have an obsession with the YouTube Studio app. It's like
Mhm.
morning, it's the first thing, and then it's the last thing in the day. But yeah, like as far as the videos, the first thing I look at is the view versus swipe weight because that tells me how good the hook is. You don't want to look at any of the other things because it's easier to know if the hook was the problem, yes or no. Once you have your yes or no answer, you look at the rest of the video. Um, so yeah, from there with the view versus swipe weight. I'm trying to get at least 80%, aiming for 85% plus for it to be like a mega viral video. Um, but I will say at the very least, at least try to aim for 70%. I know a lot of creators struggle to even get 70%, but my videos that are hitting 10 mil, like I have videos that have 10 million views that have over 80% view versus swipe away. So
Mm,
it still has 80% even with that level of dilution.
yeah.
Um, so I look for that in the view versus swipe way. And then I also look at the retention percentage. Just like briefly, I want it to at least be depends on the video length, less than 60 seconds, over 100% retention. If it's over 30 seconds, then at least 90%. But it also depends on the length. So very roughly, I'll look at the retention percentage. But then what actually dictates what I need to fix on the video is the retention graph. I'm usually looking for three different things. One, either everyone just left in the beginning because they weren't interested in the topic, but that could be found in the view versus swipe way. B, people are leaving on specific points, and I gotta identify what I did on those points that caused viewers to leave. Or C, it's a slow drop off and the progression wasn't clear enough. So that's usually what I'm looking for.
Interesting. Okay, cool. And then as far as like the retention graph, are you looking also at specific moments, like where someone, if you see like a huge drop, like are you analyzing that actively on your videos or no?
Oh yeah, so when I see a huge drop, I go a few seconds before because that's something I mentioned too. Sometimes people like misunderstand that, especially with shorts. When you see a drop somewhere, it wasn't like people like like people like I don't know how to explain it. So they'll move their mouse cursor to where the drop happened
Yep.
and then they'll press play. But like usually on shorts, that drop off, like that steep drop off only lasts like 1 to 2 seconds. So what
Mm,
you said in those 1 to 2 seconds did not cause that drop because people aren't thinking, oh, that was a weird word, leave, and like they do it immediately. Like that's not how it works on the span of 1 to 2 seconds. So you want to scroll a few seconds beforehand because what you said beforehand is what actually caused people to leave. Um, and sometimes it's not even, well, it could be what you said, but yeah, you have to like make the best educated guess. Like, was it something you said? Was it something you showed? Or did you double down on something. So, uh, for example, like this is really interesting. Like I found actually this is getting really complex. But in one video I had two drop-offs, which
mhm.
like I basically didn't say the same thing, but it was alluding to the same thing. So sometimes it's not even like drop-offs are two different reasons. They could be the same reason, just 2 points, and they cause that same emotion those two times.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's very interesting because I don't think a lot of people realize that where it's not the actual drop off that's like the problem. It's like the part before it because that's what caused that drop. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I've never actually thought about it that way. But that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind. And I think that goes for it can go for long form as well. Like I think a bit less, but looking a little bit before that drop off on long form, I think could work really well too.
Yeah, because people were thinking about like that they didn't just decide to leave there.
Yeah,
They were thinking about it and that was the final straw.
100%. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then if you had to, let's say that you started again, right? Like you started short form again, like right now in 2025, what would you say to that person starting off? Like if that was you today, like what would you say to them?
Uh I actually said it in the beginning, but
Yeah.
think about the avatar that you want to
Mm,
target. Sometimes people don't know who they want to target. So try to make videos for your younger self, maybe a cousin, maybe for your future self. Like have an avatar. And the reason why this is important is this is a super easy example. So let's say you make 10 football videos in a row. If you are going to post your 11th video, the algorithm's going to make a safe assumption that your 11th video is going to be another football video. But if you do a vlog, then you do football, then you do basketball, then you do a singing video, then you dance, and then you do finance. It's not even going to know what the next video is going to be, so it's not going to know who to send it out to, and it's probably just going to send it out to no one. It needs to know who you're actually targeting. Everything is your audience. Algorithm equals audience. That's what everyone says. It's so cheesy, but it is true. So I would think about that deeply before you start just like throwing stuff.
100%. It's the same with long form too. Like with channels, we're always thinking about like what is the specific audience that we want to target on this one channel. And if we do want to target two audiences, we almost always do two channels because it just doesn't make sense to target two separate audiences on a singular channel. And I'm assuming it's the exact same for short form.
Oh, 100%. And sometimes people think it doesn't apply to them because their content, they are the niche. Sometimes
Hmm.
people say that, but that's not true because you still have an audience. You can't appeal to everyone. By appealing to everyone, you're appealing to no one.
100%. Awesome. Well, thanks for
Awesome. Yeah, no,
coming
this
on.
is this is great.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.